Hi, I'm Andalisi.
And I'm Chef James Regato.
And in this episode of Essential Cooking, James and I talk with Master Chef Shawn Loving from the Detroit Athletic Club. We talk about his professional journey, like earning the Master Chef certification, the demands of running the kitchen at the Detroit Athletic Club, and how LeBron James got him started cooking for the best athletes in the world.
All right, so we're here with my very good friend, mentor, definitely a guiding light in the Detroit food scene. We have Master Chef. Feels good to say that. For a while, we had some resistance to that for a minute, but you persevered and got your CMC. Master Chef Shawn Loving of the DAC. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, my brother. I appreciate that very much, and it's just awesome to be here to sit with you today on this cold day.
Yeah, I think it's 3 or 4 degrees outside.
Absolutely.
So, Chef, I had to give you that introduction,
sure,
because the CMC is kind of something that generationally kids aren't really paying attention to as much. But when you were coming up, and certainly when I was in culinary school, the CMC was kind of like that's the ultimate, that's the pinnacle of the kind of the academic side
sure,
of the chef world. And sure, how many do we have in the country right now? Do you know offhand?
72.
72 master chefs in the country. How many try out every year? Do you know that number?
I don't. It's declined though, for sure.
Yeah, but in its heyday, you'd have this competition, dozens and dozens of people trying out, falling off, and one makes it through. It was like, it's kind of like the real top chef, of the academic world, colleges.
Right.
So it's essentially the ACF, the American Culinary Federation, is this governing body that oversees certifications to what they would consider to be, the elite chefs of the industry, country clubs, high-end resorts, and schools. And Chef Shawn, while he was at Schoolcraft, was trying out a couple of times, and to me, I often felt like he was the uncertified master chef because, I felt like he was getting a little bit pushed to the side, not because of his cooking, but because of politics and other things. So, sure, so I was so excited to see you get that CMC.
Sure.
What is it now? 3 years ago?
17.
2017.
Yeah,
so 5 years ago.
Sure.
And when a title like that comes along, I feel like places want to recruit you. And while I'm sad to see you lose Schoolcraft, you landed in one of probably the most coveted role in Detroit, maybe Michigan institutions, and you're the executive chef at the Detroit Athletic Club. Now, your predecessor, Kevin Brennan, what was he? I think he was there for 450 years.
You missed 1 year.
Yeah.
You missed one.
But how long was he there for?
He was there for 26 years.
26 years.
That's a long time.
So replacing him is no joke.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's no brainer. You're the first black chef to ever work in that role, sure, at the DAC in in Detroit, a majority black city. So that's kind of a long time coming. Yeah. And but I think that for you to get your CMC and to get that role all in the same few years, that's pretty cool.
Appreciate it.
I'm pretty stoked as a student and a fan and a friend of yours.
Well, I'm humbled, by it, and this is truly one of my great brothers and friends, and colleagues in the business. Everybody says, "Oh yeah, that's my friend, that's my guy." You hear that all the time, especially for chefs, whether female, male. You always hear that, but no matter whether or not it's months that go by or every now and then, we always seem to connect. We always seem to talk, chat for a bit, connect with each other. So it is a genuine statement on both of our behalves that we just really are, fond of each other and the talents that go with that. But as far as the Master Chef exam and all of those things, yes, I took the exam 3 times. Mm-hmm. And, it definitely and truly does come across as an institutional approach towards, accolades of getting some form of certification. I actually, when I was coming up, it was always the same. And it's because those were the only individuals you ever saw or learned from, because back then in those days, getting your education was you needed to go to culinary school. There really wasn't restaurants like what Chef has today, where you can actually be educated right in the forefront of the burner or the piano or the stove. Mm-hmm. There wasn't that. That wasn't what it was. It was either A, you needed to be an apprentice under Chef Milos, or you were just going to try to go work at the Money Tree or some of the other chefs that were on the avenue. But really, getting your culinary foundation and core through education was really, everything was talked about that way. And so those certifications were part of what you learned in the curriculum. That's what you learned in the syllabus. That's what you learned. But I really pursued the exam for total opposite of the accolade of passing or failing. I really knew that I needed to take the exam, whether I passed or failed, because I wanted to get better at cooking. And I knew that I had received my jobs actually in reversed roles than most. The job that I've had at Schoolcraft for half or 15 years was really a job that individuals would want at my current age.
Right.
They would actually be looking to slow down, looking to, just get the goat milk and kind of just absorb and be home on Friday and be home on Saturday and be home on Sunday, because it's a 4-day work week there, and there's a lot of those things. But I actually was blessed with that job early in my career, as opposed to really being in the bump and grind, and I always have just feeded off of that. So I needed to really kind of go deeper and find myself in all my handicaps in cooking, which is why I did the exam. I never really was pursuing resort jobs or any of the jobs that were the rumor of each CMC would, when you're done with the Cherokee Club, you go there. That was always the deal. Like, this person's going to get the job at the Greenbrier because he's a CMC, and that's the pre-qualification. I never did it for that. Never looked at it that way. I just knew, hey, the competency on international cookery, cuisines of the Americas, baking and pastry, mystery basket, breaking down forequarter, hindquarter animals, and all the things that I did up into the exam, I wasn't very, very good at, because when you leave culinary school, you've just touched it a little. You never do any of those things in full form, timed, and in rigor. So that was really the ultimate reason why. And most ask, well, why didn't you stop after the first time? And why didn't you stop after the 7th time? And you took the exam 3 total. The exam is 8 days. You did it seven days the first time, and you missed a few points. And you did it the second time and did it 7 days and missed a few points. Because each time, quite honestly, I learned so much about myself, what I wasn't good at, what I needed to refine, how to make emulsifications better. And I just got better within self. And then the last time, I did not really follow anybody's plan. I didn't follow what this person said, do an encroute, and this person said do a pâté or a champignon. I didn't do any of that. I said, I'm going to cook Shawn all the way, mystery basket my way, my flavor my way, rub it my way, do all those things my way. And first day became 3, 3 became 5, 5 became 7, day 8 was a marathon, and I sit here completed, but that's really my story in it.
Is the test the exact same test every time?
It is not, no. So it is, the competencies are the same, but you could draw, many different dishes each time. And so each time I took the exam, it was different. Mm-hmm. It was different evaluators, different baskets, different healthy cuisine, different butchery. It was all different, which is why I cherish what I did, not the certification itself. I really, I know that it has its privileges. Mm-hmm. Everything does when you're successful at it. I mean, look at who's sitting across from me, right? Success.
Get out of here.
No, success brings opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. Through your hard work and through your lonely nights and through your early mornings. Not everyone can say they are like that in life, but I never did it for what it brings. But it did really bring me a distinct eye for just enjoying and falling in love with cooking. Mm-hmm. It just really did. I mean, when you're teaching, you're only falling in love with cooking by yourself, because you could be looking at an audience and they really don't want to learn what you're telling them, right? So you're really kind of talking to yourself, but you're believing that you've captured 15 people. Yeah. But you really didn't, mm-hmm. right? And so when you do the exam, you really are falling in love with touching and feeling ingredients. And wow, look at those beats. You start to fall in love different with cooking, because you're trying to cook it at its perfect form, right? Because you're trying to present the best way you know how in front of individuals that maybe you don't even like their style of cookery. Yeah. Right? Not every evaluator I had did I like. Not every evaluator that I had did I believe in their philosophy. Mm-hmm. But they had to respect what mine was. Right. And that's how I approached the last one. So
when you were teaching, mm-hmm. Could you tell early on if you had students that had an aptitude to really be accomplished chefs. Was that something that was obvious, or do some people just work so hard and they get really great at it?
It was clear.
Oh, really?
It was clear. It's really two type of students I've had. Well, three total. I'd say the first student was just naturally talented. They knew they wanted to do it. They've never done anything else.
This is their calling.
This is their calling. Their parents supported them, and that's just a small bunch. Mm-hmm. And then there's the retired individual that finally, the kids are at Michigan State. They really have got their plan. They've always cooked at home, and they've set themselves up to where they just wanted to finish up exactly what they know, to do their own personal life, do what they do, right? But then there's the individual which is the one I had the most fun with, the individual that's shy, not very sharp in terms of like book. They can't write the thesis. They don't do very, very well on the pop quiz. They don't do very, very well in the book. But you get them in that walk-in and you say, move this Lexan from here to here. And you say, we're going to take this pan and we're going to rissolé it a little bit. Then we're going to cool it a little bit more and then we're going to rub it on some meat while the pores are open. And that person's looking at you like, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And I found that those were not the most brightest individuals from a book perspective, but were the ones that loved the little bit of splatter because there was a little water in the saute pan, and they enjoyed what we call that action. They liked that. And those three, you could see the difference in them. But as I departed the college, I could feel more and more that there was someone sent me here. Mm-hmm. I'm unsure that this is what I want to do. I've watched a whole heck of a lot of it on TV. I love the mainstream of it. There's more of them today. I
get it. Well, I think television has sort of colored this in a way that it is Absolutely. Not and led folks down a path of thinking, wow, this is really going to be so easy. It looks like fun on TV kind of a thing. James, was Chef teaching when you were there?
He was. So I think at that time, you were more of a fill-in.
I was.
I feel like you filled in for Chef Dan a little bit and maybe Butchery a little bit. But I mean, at that time, Shawn was, when did Loving Spoonful close?
Loving Spoonful closed 7 years after September 11th. So September 11th tragedy, yeah.
So six, right?
Okay. Yeah,
2007.
2007.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So you were still running Loving Spoonful full time when I was in college. So if you remember Loving Spoonful restaurant on 12 Mile.
Yep.
Which I loved. I ate there a lot. So he was mostly a substitute, but obviously Shawn was very loved by the team, by the culinary team, by the student body, and as well as the fellow chefs there. And I think it was always a question, at that time it was like, oh, when's Chef Dan going to retire? Shawn's going to take over. So it was very cool to see him kind of step into that academic side. But yeah, speaking of Loving Spoonful, we did a dinner a few years ago at Frame where I really pushed Shawn. I was like, dude, let's do a Loving Spoonful dinner, because that was one of my favorite restaurants. And at the time, there wasn't a lot of black chefs that were known, and I think in the greater Detroit area, and kind of did the food the way that Shawn did. He really embraced, I think, some of that soul food, but presented it in such an academic way that it was exciting for everybody. So it was it was one of those bridge. It was one of those bridge chefs that kind of shows me some soul food techniques that I didn't grow up with, but then also can maybe bring some kids that aren't familiar with how to run a restaurant or how to serve a certain tier of food or style. And it was a cool restaurant that really I don't really think has been replaced.
Yeah, it was. Man, I had fun. I made so many mistakes too. Just looking back on. Just being hungry to own, how everyone says, I want to own a restaurant. You know what I mean? I want to be like, I want to be like JR. I want to own, right? But then they don't really know all of the pressures of that, right? They just are thinking that you get to express yourself on the canvas, like I get to do me. But the restaurant was so awesome for me because I was striving for trying to create cuisine that wasn't African American. That was actually my starting goal. Like I know how to do Hoppin' Johns, and I know how to do braised collards, and I was like, man, I really would hope that somebody would buy my salmon. Like I was kind of like trying to step out of body, because as soon as you have the majority of minorities, they're looking for the candy yam and everything that we know how to do. Mm-hmm. And I respected it. So it wasn't as though I left it out, but I kept trying to modernize that. But every time I would try to do something out of my comfort, it would always come right back to what made me comfortable, which is the cuisine that Chef is speaking on. So at the end of it, I finally found groove, finally found comfort in. It's okay to mix it up a little bit, but don't be something you're not. Be yourself. Everybody else is taken. Just do you, right? Right. Just do you. And if it's good, it's good. If it's not, you'll know. And then I found it. Like I found, fried corn would be cool, and I found that. I just found it, yeah. and that changed me a lot, to where I really realized that it's not about yourself. It's really about what is going to be the difference between memory, like how are people going to think about it? So I would have never thought that that's the thought process, right? Just to hear him say what he remembered about it, which is my goal now, and hope that that's what everybody remembers about it. So it's cool, yeah. Right? Yeah. It's cool to hear.
Yeah, I said that dinner was great, and I hope we'll get to cook together.
Absolutely.
Too. We probably would have done a couple more of those if we didn't have a crazy last 2 years. Mm-hmm. But what is your life like now at the DAC? Because and most people know about it in the Detroit area, but that's over 100-year-old, athletic club. It's gone through a lot of different times in American history. Mm-hmm. It's famous. I think the most famous contribution to the world is the Last Word cocktail, which you can. I was actually down in Mexico City and ordered one. The bartender knows it, and that's kind of cool. Like that's a Detroit. It's a Detroit export. That's not nearly as famous as Aretha Franklin, but it's known. It's not Motown, but it's known. So that's exciting to work in that kind of institution. Sure. Well, what is your life like now versus talking about Loving Spoonful, talking about Schoolcraft? What's the chef world like at the DAC?
It is a monster. It is it's extremely a busy job on every level, because you've got 5,000 members. You have members that you don't even run into often, but yet you're trying to please them all the time, right? So that's the customer base. It operates like a resort, really, with the rooms, with the room service, with amenities, the banquet business, pop-up parties, the restaurants, in terms of breakfast, lunch, dinner, the rehab, the 100-year-old building, the effects of having your own engineering team, your own laundry service, your own laundry room, not doing the Cintas or you do your own laundry, your employee cafeteria, your tailgates.
That's crazy. That's a crazy amount of things to oversee.
You run a little country.
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's just to talk about like the scheduling alone, even with not having enough individuals, just the scheduling of that, as well as the stewarding department. I currently have to walk away in an environment sort of like this and just lay it out, like I'm laying out like ideas, like you would do back in the day. Put a poster up and say, I'm kind of thinking about doing some sunchokes, and you write some different. You've got so many requests alone just to fill in the gap before you even begin to plug in the BEOs. What parties you got going, how many weddings you got going, and so what a learning curve for me.
So let's say start to finish your scheduling, like whatever day of the week it is, you have your coffee, you go in the room to build your schedules.
It's a 2-day process. Wednesday, portion. Thursday, last part of the day, sleep on it. Friday morning, early, go in, make the deadline based on the union, and get it posted.
Oh my God.
Do we have time to cook?
Oh, I cook.
I don't even know how you would have time with all of those people to manage and all these parties and all the administrative part of it sounds absolutely daunting.
It really is. The administrative part is daunting because of the amount of menus you have to write. You know, I'm writing menus every day. And it's not because of your staple a la carte or cafe menus.
It's parties, man.
It's parties. I don't want this, I want that. I need this themed, I need that. You got wine dinners every other month.
You're just open all the time.
Yeah, bowlers formal, past president's ball last night, inaugural president's dinner this past Tuesday, election day this past Tuesday, which is, we had a traffic of 1,950, right?
People.
Yeah, 70, we cooked 78 prime ribs, 109s.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, and it's like
I can't even.
Yeah. The fun part for me is, or the challenge I want to say is, how can I make the most normal things be as perfect as possible based on volume? How can I make good au jus? How can I
for
2,000 people?
Right. How can I do that?
Yeah.
That's just crazy. And then sourcing everything.
Yeah,
like the ordering part alone.
Well, you have a whole purchasing department.
A whole purchasing department. Yeah. It's like, it's a challenge, but it's one that I needed. It's one that I think has made me even more healthy to keep that butterfly inside, keep that fueled edge. I think that I can officially really sort of put myself into a category to say that I am a chef.
Yeah.
I think there's chefs, but then there's, you're a chef, like you're a chef with plating up a dinner for 250 last night, go on the hotline, just get them out of the weeds, a little expo, a little bit, go to 7, make sure that they're okay. Tonight, head back there, Wings game. That's a rush in itself. Don't forget, after the Wings game, they're going to come up and do last word. That means there's appetizers coming heavy. It's just a constant chef world there.
Black perspectives haven't always been centered in the telling of America's story. Now, we're taking center stage. Introducing NPR's Black Stories, Black Truths, a collection of Black-led stories from NPR's podcasts. Search NPR Black Stories, Black Truths wherever you get your podcasts.
The kitchen is 100 years old, so it must have gone through, I wonder how many renovations to kind of keep up with the volume. And, just equipment gets better and equipment breaks.
Well, it's also kitchens. There's a lot of kitchen space there.
So what is that whole operation look like in terms of space? Like how much space is it? And did you get to redo anything when you got there?
This is interesting. This is like fun, this part.
Did you get to say, that's got to go, I'm the new chef, I don't want this or whatever? Like, I don't have any clue. Like, first of all, food for 2,000 people, I can't even wrap my head around that. But that whole operation part, the logistics of how it's all laid out so that you can do your best work.
Yes, and so no kitchen renovation. I think that property has only had one main kitchen renovation, and it was called a mini. So, for example, reach-ins. Let's just use a basic reach-in. We know them as low-boy reefers, and you walk around kitchens and they've got them. We have what's called coffins, and so these are reach-ins that they look like coffins. They look like you're at the morgue and you open up these sort of stainless steel, hard. It looks like the back of an old milk truck, but they're small. And then they only have a certain amount of space, and inside them have boxes. And then that would hold a half-sheet tray or cafeteria tray. And so I might have 3 of them with just nothing but hors d'oeuvres, cold hors d'oeuvres. I might have another one that's got the hot hors d'oeuvres in it for the garde manger area. The kitchen has not been renovated. It's up for renovation 2023, this time 2023. It's a very cool design.
Is that something you are designing?
Yes. I am like,
wow,
I'm excited
gonna be
about the
cool.
kitchen.
That's huge.
I'm excited about it because of, I'll definitely pay homage. I'll make sure I bring back Kevin, and I'll make sure I get Dan and, some people that have worked there, and just so that they get a chance to, throw a piece into there. One of the goals I have is there's these things we have called milk jugs. And these milk jugs are the original milk jugs that like milk used to be churned in back in the day, and they sort of have like a neck to them.
Oh, right.
And they're extremely heavy. They're like very large. And that's what all lobster bisque and all of the things that we make, we put them in these things called milk jugs. And so my plan is to have silhouettes of those milk jugs hanging in the kitchen. So I got like a vision of it.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that it comes, the renovation will happen, but I'm just hoping that what I choose goes well. But right now the renovation is happening in the basement, which is the Abbey, the bowling alley. So that's got a kitchen, new kitchen and all that.
You know about the bowling at the DDC,
Oh, yeah.
right? That's like a cult thing.
Yeah,
That's wicked.
I learned about that. I was like, I didn't know.
It's like-
I didn't know they had a bowling alley.
You invited me there.
Yeah, that's yeah.
That's
was like,
that's,
what?
how
You did, yeah.
that's how I ended up there.
I know. I was like, what's that? When I sat with them, they were like, do you know about bowling? I said, what do you want to know? What are you talking about bowling? What are you talking about bowling?
I was like, bowling.
Oh my God.
Okay.
I mean,
It's like
It is crazy.
It's one of the more. I feel like it's one of the more serious, culty kind of vibes there, in a good way.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
kind of. It's like they take it very. The Bowlers Gala is one of the larger events. Right?
yeah, we just had it this past week, Wednesday. Like,
That is so great.
yeah.
Taken so seriously.
So, Shawn, one of the things about your history that I was absolutely fascinated by was cooking for sports and these sports teams and
Yeah.
Olympic, these Olympians. And I saw this photo of you with these basketball players, and they're
Yeah.
like twice your height almost. It was crazy to see you with these guys, but I wondered what it was like to cook. That's like a whole different paradigm. So we just talked about you cooking for,
Yeah.
thousands of people. Now we're talking about a specific ultra athlete, and what you do will keep them in a healthy state and nourish them so that they can perform on the highest possible level at the Olympics.
absolutely.
So first of all, how did you get those jobs? Because you've done a number of them. How do you get those jobs, and what is that experience like for you? You clearly must love it. You've done it so many times.
I've done it a lot. I do love it. I love it for a couple reasons, but it started at Loving Spoonful. The Pistons used to always come, and I started doing some personal chefing work for that group that won the championship. And so then it sort of spiraled itself from Rip and Chauncey and Ben Wallish and those guys. And then I had started doing the Round Ball One airplane from Loving Spoonful. And at that time, when you're doing all of those sidebar things, what people don't know and realize about restauranting, you will do anything to continue to keep your doors right. You'll do anything. You'll just sell things in order to just keep going. You're not thinking about your actual reputation. You're thinking about, I got to go to Huntington Bank and make deposits. I got to go. And that's like the underground of it. No one talks about that part. To me, I don't think they do anyway. But from that, I had gotten a visit from LeBron. LeBron had came to my restaurant for an Easter Sunday brunch. And he was there with some Nike guys. And then from that, I went and did his commercial with Bernie Mac in Akron. And then it just took off from there. I started cooking for him a lot and doing his commercials in L.A. And so then the group in 2008 that were going to Beijing,
Right.
which had, LeBron. He was a younger LeBron, and Carmelo and D-Wade and Kobe and just a lot of good, strong guys. They were going back to start winning gold again because we had lost. And they said, we're not going to go and join this team unless we have somebody that we can kind of talk to and relate to for eating, because we don't want to eat, say, Chinese every day, right? That's their thought of the cuisine. So long story short, I said yes. I went out on a limb. Like USA Basketball called me, and they were like, would you go and be our chef? The hotel that we're going to be staying at, the Intercontinental, they're all good for you to come and oversee the food program for both men and women. So I started in 2008, and then from there it just kept going. I did NBA Live in London, and I did I did Istanbul, and I did Spain, and I did Rio, and I just did Tokyo, and Malaysia's coming. The reason I enjoy it is because it's another culture, and I'm cooking and doing the things necessary that I need to for their fuel, but I get to see another part of the world's food.
I was just going to say, so you were just in Tokyo recently.
Yep.
And so Tokyo right now is probably the most unique it's ever been in the last 30 years because there's no tourism.
There isn't. But that was the most wicked one because of COVID.
Yeah. So the restrictions were tough.
It's just tough.
Yeah.
I mean, 34 days in a hotel, just cooking.
But you couldn't go out and explore?
Yeah, because of breaking the bubble. I would have been breaking the bubble based on being tested every day.
Wow.
In terms of the menu for these athletes, how is that all determined? Is it determined with you and them and a nutritionist or dietitian? How is that menu laid out for when they eat, how much they eat, when they're playing, when they're not playing? I would assume all those things are taken into consideration.
They're all taken into consideration. I mean, so because there's different athletes, there is, if an athlete from a different team needs a specific nutrition breakdown, then the nutritionist reaches out to me early on. Hey, he can't eat after 6 or whatever. He can't have this or that. This gives him aches, or this inflames him, or whatever the case may be, him or her. And then after that, it's just really me building the menu program based on availability of product. That's what's probably the most first critical to it, because you can't really substitute, bok choy for broccoli if their pregame meal is broccoli. You just have to kind of adjust that first.
How do you source when you're in another country?
I start early on. So they send me a list of what they have. Usually the cooks that come and or that are working there are usually contracted employees. So whatever hotel it is, USA Basketball is paying the most top dollar necessary for the hotel space, because it's not like regular tourists or individuals are in that hotel. It's just like us. So it's like, this cook doesn't work there, but he's from a great hotel down the street or whatever. He's contracted to be over there with me.
And so then the locals know.
They know.
So you can ask this, you can say, hey, where's the best chicken purveyor? Or I need to,
exactly.
Who's your best butcher?
That's exactly right. And then I just rally it like that. And then obviously Zoom became cool, like this past Tokyo. And I was like, get them all on.
Yeah.
Here's what I need. I need both regular boneless, skinless chicken breasts. I need chickens whole. I need them fronts. I need whole turkeys. This person can't do it. And then that's just really it. But I do have a template. I do have a template I go by.
That sounds like a lot. It doesn't sound like 2,000 people, but it still sounds like a whole lot of stuff to keep track of, because so many people.
It is.
With different. But that sounds really exciting.
It's fun.
Does this because some of these people you're mentioning, obviously they're athletes, and there's the NBA side of it, and there's the Olympic side. But that also, people like LeBron. I mean, you're talking like a mega celebrity. I'm assuming this crosses over, and you do other things for musicians and other celebrities.
Yeah.
It doesn't just stop with athletics.
Absolutely.
And so then you start feeding entertainers and their red tape, riders, diets, crew. I mean, that's a whole, you're kind of have to be a chameleon in order to figure out who you're feeding, when, where, why, all the. So where have you cooked for musicians on the road? Have you gone out of town and done?
I have, I have. I've cooked for Jay. Jay-Z. I've cooked for Beyonce, obviously. I've cooked for Yeezy. A lot of the individuals that I've cooked for that are entertainment based are individuals that are connected with NBA people.
Yeah, that's what I assumed.
Right, like Drake. I've cooked for him, but yet he's connected with the connection of, it just keeps lining itself up because of who they deal with, because of the athlete, right? So it's just really a matter of, right, just they know each other, and then they tell them about you, and then it's just like picking up a deuce or a four top. I got you.
It grows every time.
Yeah, that's all
they
it
like
is.
It grows.
Yeah, it just keeps growing.
So you have to be able to cook different cultures, be versed enough, because you'll never know what someone's going to ask for, right? What's the biggest challenge that ever came your way and you were like, wow, this is going to be
I think
tricky.
LeBron's LeBron's commercial in LA was tough because I had a trailer connected to a semi that had, your basic kitchen, right? How everybody's doing food trucks, but a semi that had a basic stainless steel kitchen in it. But going to the grocery store, finding a basic store, going back, and the difference between them saying his lunch is going to be at X based on fueling him because he's an athlete, but yet his body double versus he makes a change in a decision because he's going to go have a meeting. That's more difficult than the menu itself, the flavor itself, the do's and don'ts, is the timing. Oh, no, he's ready now. Oh, no, they're not ready now. Or his friends are ready now. You feed his friends, but he's not ready now. But what you fed his friends, you really had saved for him, right? Or I want bass. I'd like to have sea bass for dinner. Well, you're driving, right? So that's been the most challenge.
And I hear that a lot from like a lot of private chefs. I mean, I was a private chef for a while, and like that is the, because when you have enough resources to employ a private chef, then you're the private chef. No is not really in your that's not really in your toolbox.
You're not allowed.
Yes. Like, now as a restaurant, and that's what you said, the creative freedom, you get the paint on your palate. There is some truth to that because I make the menu and, obviously you got to be successful, but like there is, we don't have chicken today, period. I don't have any kind of chicken.
Right.
But if you have a private chef and they're like, hey, so-and-so's kids coming, they want chicken.
Hey, yeah, you know what we were thinking tonight? We were thinking tonight? We were thinking of a nice little chicken party. Okay.
You're finding a chicken.
Right. You're en route. You're going to go get a chicken, and you're not buying a hot one that's at the end of the Kroger aisle. You got to go get a chicken. So yeah.
Chef, what I would imagine with your job at the DAC now, you don't have time for a side hustle at all.
I don't.
This is pretty all-consuming, but it must be one of the most gratifying things you've ever done.
It is. I think, when I did have the conversation with the DAC, I asked them, out of all of the relationships I wanted to keep was USA Basketball. And the reason for it was not because of the notoriety of it, but because when you get on an airplane and you go to another country and you get an opportunity to see how they handle something, I just think it enriches you as a cook, and I just think at the end of the day, they would be shortchanging my happiness by way of me having to eliminate that relationship. And so they agreed, and that's why I was able to do Tokyo for a month this past summer. And, but no, I can't sign up for, hey, I'm leaving for 48 hours. The calendar's too thick to sign up for things that are just those little smaller sidebars. But there's enough fulfillment with a variety when I do the international stuff.
One final question. If you had to give advice to young people who think that this is what they want to do, what would you tell them?
They need to first get a dictionary and look up the word patience. They need to understand the essence of what patience means, that it's not a light switch. You're not able to have success through others based on their journey. You need to create a journey and a path through your own patience. I think that's a dilemma today. I think that patience is too thin. I think that skin is too thin. I believe that when you add those things up together, they remove themselves from the chance of being great in this industry. And if they could just adopt those few things and realize that there is a rainbow, they would be all right. But the patience is just gone. They have none. And they don't look at the end. They just look at the now. And when you do that, and you look at the food available on the avenue today, that's dangerous. It's a dangerous way to go if you really want to be all right in this business. You got to get more patient.
That's about the long game, right?
Well said.
Yeah. That's how I feel.
Thank you so much, Chef.
Appreciate it.
And congratulations.
Such a pleasure.
Yes.
Thank you, my brother.
Hey, thank you, Chef.
You're always going to be my brother.
I appreciate you.
All right.
Our thanks to Shawn Loving for joining us, to you for listening.
We would like to thank La Marca Prosecco for their support. From the hills of Veneto, Italy, you can never go wrong with Prosecco, whether it's in a spritz or drinking straight.
Joan Isabella is our executive producer with producer David Lyons. Editing, mixing, and mastering by Sam Bobian. Production support provided by Studios on the Pond and original music by the Mallet Brothers. This is a production of WDET, Detroit's NPR station.